Hey everyone, Curse Deck Builder here, making our way to 10,000 decks assisted, and here we have something pretty special. This is Yidris Maelstrom Wielder Demon Kindred. And this deck comes from us from the Allfather, friend of the channel and, a recent father of two, who says they want this deck to be functional so that they can cascade into demons. And they say that money is no object. I don't know how much about money being not an object when you have two kids now, but we're gonna see what we can do. I have a lot of things on my mind of this deck, and a lot of changes and ideas to go forward, so let's get right into it. If you'd like to take a look at the deck list we're talking about today, or if you'd like to submit your own deck list to me so that I can make a video assisting your deck, please check the video description down below. So who is Yidris Maelstrom Wielder, and why are they our commander for our Demon Kindred deck? Well, that's a really interesting question. I mean, we don't usually see a non-Kindred support card at the lead of a Kindred deck, so we have to see what this commander and its colors offers our deck. Well, the first things first, I never noticed that this guy had 4 arms, so that's a good start. That's pretty cool, kind of like a Goro type guy. He's in blue, black, red, green, and an Ogre Wizard, 5/4 trample. And he has one main ability, and it says when he deals combat damage to a player, the next spells you cast for the rest of your turn gain Cascade. And I think if you've ever played a game against Yidris, you know exactly what he tends to do. Ramp out really big, start cascading, and playing very, very strong cards that cascade into even stronger cards at lower mana. And with that in mind, we don't usually see this in a Kindred style deck, in an aggro style deck. This kind of idea is really, really interesting to me, especially, and this is the big thing, and we'll get to this in additions, is the addition of green mana. Traditionally, Demon Kindred comes in black, black-red, black-blue, and Grixis, and occasionally 5 color, but I don't think that's really a thing. So this is the first time that I see it really with green as just an option that it has access to that it can take seriously. And I think we should kind of keep that in mind. When I build decks and I'm building something different or unique, or especially with colors that don't usually apply to that deck type, I'm really keen on looking at, what that color adds that we didn't previously have access to. What makes this deck even stronger because of its new combination. But let's take a look at the deck itself, and there's a lot of things we can immediately point out. Notably, the deck has 2 copies of a card and therefore cannot actually be run, and it's at 109 cards, which also means it can't be run. My understanding is that commander decks have to be 100 cards. That's why they can't run, who's our Sky Noodle? I can't remember, but our companion that requires another 20 cards. That's also not, you can't run that in Commander as a companion because the deck has to be 100 cards. So we already have cuts, and that's nice. But we can also see that we have 33 lands in a deck whose curve goes, well, rather high because we want to cast demons, and we do want to cast them because by casting them, we get the Cascade. So easily, we go down a card, we go to 108. We can go down another 5-ish cards easily to add to our lands. I think 38, 39 lands would probably be a good amount, especially when we get to the conversation about ramp. The next thing I can note is we do have a lot of non-demons, and there is kind of a theme to a lot of the non-demons that we have in a lot of cards. And that theme is reducing our spells by a certain colorless mana cost. Now, I'm not entirely against this. A lot of our demons, you can see once we get past 2 into 5 mana, a lot of our demons have a lot of colorless pips, and being able to reduce those will make quite a bit of difference. Notably, as we know, reducing the mana cost doesn't reduce the mana cost in terms of Cascade, and therefore we will be casting these spells at a cheaper mana cost, but we will be reaping the full Cascade. However, I will say I think we're overdoing it a bit. And just at a glance, we've got Cemetery Prowler, Gore Claw, Nylea, Umori. Then we go down and we have, let's see, Cloud Key, Jet Medallion, Urza's Incubator, and Immortal Sun. So we have quite a few. And though I'm not going to say we don't get a full use of them, I will say not all of these cards are equal. I think I'm missing one. Herald's Horn is one as well, yes. But not all of these are equal. So what I would do is I would start by keeping the ones that reduce by 2, right? Those are the strongest ones. So looking quickly, we can see that Urza's Incubator is reducing by 2 mana all of our demons. I like that already. Goreclaw also reduces 2 for power 4 or greater, which it's easy to see that almost all of our demons are going to like hit that number. So that's already another one I want to keep. After that, Herald's Horn. Oh, I also missed Heartless Summoning. Heartless Summoning is another one at 2, and reducing the power of our demons by 1. The power and toughness is not that important, and I like that as well. So these are the ones that reduce by 2. I want to keep all of those. After that, I even missed Bontu's Monument, but Herald's Horn is one that I would like to keep because it gives you a pseudo card draw on your upkeep as long as there's a demon on top of your deck, so I like that. But after that, I think we're kind of doing some overkill. I don't think we need that many. Jet Medallion and Bontu's Monument notably only reduce the spell, the cost of black mana. And I will note that you can tell as though we have a lot of black cards, we don't only have black cards. And so they don't hit all of our demons. Things like Balor, things like, no, Thrix is another one. My goodness. Okay, maybe we need a recount. Let's do a quick recount. We have an Animar, technically. My goodness. So, Animar, Cemetery Prowler, let's see, Goreclaw, Nylea. That's 3. 1, 2. I've already lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4. Umori 5. Thrix 6. Okay, those are good. Heartless Summoning 7. Immortal Sun 8. Incubator 9. Horn 10. Bontu's Monument 11. Jet Medallion 12. And you know what? I probably still missed one that I've mentioned before. The Herald. No, I did say the Horn. Regardless, it's too many. It's too many. I can't believe I'm still finding more and more. So with that in mind, I think cut down to the ones that reduce by 2. After that, keep the Horn and maybe Cloud Key because it's just universal to all creatures. Whereas Jet Medallion because it's 2 mana isn't that bad. But even then, I think, you know, something that's just universal against a card type is a little more impressive. Okay, that's where I would start because I think the ability is really interesting, but I will say there is a limit to these because once you get too many of these on the battlefield, like, don't get me wrong, it's cool to be casting Bloodthirster for 1 red and then you cascade into something, but unless you have a bunch of other cards to work with, like in your hand, you're not really doing much more after that. So there is a limit on this. Then there's some Nombo cards. The first one is Fires of Invention, though I get the idea that you can cast spells, you get to cast 2 spells basically for free. Notably, this can only let you cast 2 spells a turn, and therefore you cannot cast the cascades after a single cascade. So you cascade once and then you're done. I don't think that's where you want to be, and we don't have any instant speed cascade at the moment, but this would interfere with that. So Fires of Invention is easily a no. Likewise, where are you? Rakdos, Lord of Riots cannot be cast unless an opponent lost life this turn, and though technically I guess that's almost always going to have triggered because of Yidris hitting. It does mean that you can't always just put this creature out, and if you are cascading on an opponent's turn with different cards and you cascade into Rakdos, this can be a real problem because you won't be able to cast it despite the fact, you know, like, you want to. So those 2 cards are very much so Nombos to me, and they stick out because of that. After which, the main cards I want to talk about before we start talking about additions and things that interest me is the mana ramp. So, here's the question. Do we want to play these over just mana ramp? So I put mana ramp into my additions because we have access to green. We get to play Farseek, we get to play, Nature's Lore, 3 Visits, these kind of cards that are very powerful in a deck that has access to, triomes that we can pull out and get 3 colors off of 2 mana, whereas, outside of Arcane Signet and maybe Felwar Stone we should be playing, a lot of these will only generate 2 mana. So at the moment, I'm looking and we're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2-color rocks. And I think the 2-color rocks I'd like to change. I'm not including Arcane Signet because it taps for all colors. I'd like to change one of them to Felwar Stone, and I think the rest we can turn into 2-mana ramp, which will be a lot happier because it'll get our triomes out of our deck or our shocklands. And I think that'll be a big difference. Whereas these ones, I think they're just a little too clunky. And if I was playing them, I would play the Signets over the Talismans. As people know, the Talismans only create 1 color at a time, and in such a color-focused deck, especially with Yidris, the ability for the Signets to tap for 2 of those colors is pretty important. Notably, Dimmer and Rakdos are kind of useful ones, but I don't know. I feel like if I wanted them, the green ones are kind of important too, because green isn't a color that you're ready to make all the time. So having access to it off of a Signet can be very, very helpful. Then I do feel, this will probably be the last thing, but I do feel that Panharmonicon is a little greedy here. I do recognize it does trigger off of some of our demons that are very, very very powerful, like these 2 especially, but I feel like it's overkill. I don't really think we need it. I think if we're just slamming demons down, we're getting ahead, right? We don't need necessarily to get double triggers to have that. Yeah, so I think that's a little overkill, but I will say I think you're free to keep it. Chromatic Lantern is the last one that's coming to mind. And I think that's fine. I think Chromatic Lantern is a card that always gets kind of pulled into question whether or not we have the right fixing for a deck. We have really good fixing here, don't get me wrong. This deck has really, really nice fixing despite the lack of lands. So I don't think you necessarily need Lantern, but Lantern is a nice card to just have because it simplifies a lot of your deck. Before we go on, I do want to say that I really, really like Animar here. Animar, I think, is really, really strong here. I was cutting all of the creature spell. I was trying to cut a lot of these. I didn't say to cut Animar, and maybe I should have taken a note to say don't cut Animar. I think this is really, really interesting in this deck. This is definitely one of those non-Kindred creatures that is just so strong in a Kindred deck like this that, I didn't even think of this until I saw it within the deck. So I really, really like it. I'd like to take a note to say, please keep this card. I think it's very, very strong. Okay, so we're going to move into my additions. You'll notice I haven't really talked about a lot of these demons. I have this kind of thing, and I've said this before, but when it comes to Kindred decks, I don't try to pick apart the Kindred cards as much because they tend to be good. And I did take a look at it, and I do particularly like the collection of demons. And though I think we could add a few more Ixalan demons, for example, if we wanted to, I think this collection is just fine. If we really want to push it and pull it, there's going to be a few demons here and there that we can cut or add. But at the moment as it is, I think it's in a pretty good place. I'm on Orathion. Forgot about Orathion, or Ortheon. I think this one we can definitely... I think this definitely feels a little win more. This creature always surprises me at being at 4 mana. I feel like they should be at like 2 mana. Because, just reduce the cost of the creature and instead, make it like a 1/1. Make it a 2 mana 1/1 and give it these abilities. I think it would be really cool. But at 4 mana, it's really, really clunky. Which I will note, I didn't say this before, but our 4 mana slot is kind of our biggest slot by far. with so many creatures. Right now, I've already suggested to take a few of them out, and you'll notice fires. I've said to take out Panharmonicon. We have Umori. We have Nylea. Goreclaw can stay, and then where are they? I just said them, right? Ortheon. If we cut all of these, it'll get a little better. I think I am going to add 1 or 2 4-mana spells. I don't think there's much you can do. You're in 4 colors. A lot of your strong spells are going to be in 4 mana, so we can only cut down this number so much. But it's important just to remember that no matter what happens, we're playing Yidris first at 4 mana. So keep that in mind when you are building this deck and playing this deck when it comes to 4 mana. Okay, let's go to my additions. So this first collection of additions is going to be based on the fact that we don't usually have green in these decks, right? Usually we are bereft of green, and so now we just have access to a bunch of different cards that demons don't usually have access to, and we should be taking advantage of it. So the first one is an easy one. It's Deathrite Shaman. It's a mana dork, but it does so much more. And I think it's just notable here because you do have access to fetch lands. You have a really good mana base, and just the ability to kind of use this as a Birds of Paradise with the other abilities is a card that I like. With Cascade, I also do like having another 1-mana spell that you want to cascade into that doesn't, isn't a whiff. Like something like Essence Flux or Dark Ritual. Sometimes you're not going to be able to use the full ability of the card, whereas Deathrite Shaman you're pretty happy to cascade into and drop it. Then, we already talked about this, but I just want to put this here as a kind of, reminder. Grab some 2-mana ramp. I think we're in green. Our ability to put the triomes into play, so ones that look for land types, so Farseek, 3 Visits, Nature's Lore, those are the ones that come to mind. There's probably maybe one more, but those can grab our triomes, which is a big thing in a deck like this that's 4 colors, and unlike the mana rocks, they can't be destroyed by artifact destruction, whereas your opponents have to blow up lands, which is less common. It can be common, especially as you go up in power level, but is less common. So I think we should be playing these. We have access to them. We have access to green. I think we should use them. All right, next is, this is kind of a boring one, but Beast Within. We have access to green. We should play Beast Within. If we had access to white, we'd have a few others we could play of the newer kind of, Generous Gift and Midnight, Stroke of Midnight, but we don't, so instead we get to play Beast Within, 3 mana, destroy any permanent, give them a 3/3, you're pretty happy. All right, let's get to some more interesting ones. So Garruk's Uprising, I think, is very fascinating. Much like how Goreclaw works, we are banking on the fact that a lot of our demons are 4 power or greater, which they are. So this not only gives them, the draw on ETB and a draw whenever a demon enters the battlefield, but this trample ability I really like. Now, our commander has trample already. A few of our demons also have trample already. Pretty sure Goreclaw has trample already. But even then, the ability to give all of our other demons who, a lot of them do have flying, but trample on that as well, it makes a big difference. So I really do like this card. I think it can make a very big difference. It's a draw engine. It generally just beefs up your deck. You're going to like that. After that, we have Rhythm of the Wild, just reprinted, which I think has really cut down on its price. I remember this being a lot more expensive, but creature spells can't be countered, so already something we really like, and then giving all of our creatures Riot. So this is fantastic because generally we're going to be taking the haste over the +1/+1 counters. This enables not only for Yidris to come out, attack right away. Granted, we need some extra mana, so the haste on Yidris is better after turn 4 when we have tons and tons of mana. Because, you attack, you hit, but then you have no spells to cast. But for the rest of our demons, we're really happy to have haste, especially off the Cascades, the Cascades tend to come in after combat, right, for Yidris, so Cascades not so much, but we're going to also be playing demons fairly at a certain point, and being able to give them haste. Okay, sorry, I'm going back and forth because I'm realizing you probably don't want to cast the demons before Yidris hits. Okay, so I'm a little lower on Rhythm of the Wild, but I will say that whenever Yidris isn't good, Rhythm of the Wild is going to be very good. Not only, if Yidris isn't good because he's off the battlefield, Rhythm of the Wild allows him to come back and have haste and start cascading, so I like that. And if Yidris is out of the game, just giving our demons haste and just playing them fairly will make a very big difference. And obviously the creatures you don't want to have haste come in with a +1/+1 counter, and that is pretty good. So I do like this, but it's not necessarily like very clean as much as other decks, because you kind of don't want to give your demons haste because you want to cast them post-combat. So this one really caught my eye. This really got me, is Frontier Siege. Frontier Siege is really, really interesting. So this is one of those, you choose between two types of abilities. Now the cons is very, very straightforward, right? Adds green mana, lets you kind of ramp into your next few turns. I think this is kind of like the safe option if you're very much so behind and you need mana, you haven't been able to ramp, or there's been land destruction or something like that. Cons is the easy pick. But Dragons really catches my eye, because whenever a creature with flying enters the battlefield, you may have it fight. Now, obviously this is designed for dragons, but as we know, and I've mentioned before, we're demons, right? A lot of our demons have flying. Not all of them, but enough of a group that I think is nominal. Enough that all of these creatures ETBing and destroying another creature is definitely worth the 4 mana of this card. With your bigger demons that go up past 6/6s, you can probably really easily kill commanders and the like, but even our like 4 toughness, 3 toughness demons, their ability just to take down utility creatures, I think this is going to make a big, big difference. Yeah, I think its ability just to ping out Dark Confidants, Thalias, Mana Dorks, anything utility, things that are like realm walkers and things like that, things that are like key pieces of decks that tend to be smaller creatures that don't attack, your ability just to ping them out is going to make a big difference. So I really do like this, and there is a natural kind of, you have a few blink cards, its ability to blink these demons and get extra fights is really, really nice. So I do like this. Binding of the Old Gods, I just think this is kind of cute. I really like this in green-black decks that have the room for it. It is removal and it is ramp. We never tend to, in a lot of decks, we don't really care about that third point of the saga for Death Touch, and this is no exception. Our creatures are too big, we don't really mind, but having that just, on one turn you destroy, like a Rhystic Study or destroy a Smothering Tide, and then all of a sudden the next turn you get a Forest, which can be a Triome. Just a nice inclusion. It's a little boring as well, but I do think it is something we get to play with. Greater Good is a little more interesting. I did say I'm adding some 4 mana cards. I guess I'm adding a lot more than I thought. This does make me think that we definitely want to prioritize 2 mana ramp, because then it allows us to hit 4 mana on turn 3, and that we can start casting Yidris and casting these cards. So Greater Good allows us to turn our creatures into card draw, their power -3, and I really do like this here because a lot of our demons are very, very high in power, so you can play this card, leave it off to the side, and then when your demons are targeted or you desperately need card draw, you will turn those demons into card draw. Now notably, the discard does work with a few of our cards, some reanimation that we have. If we wanted, we could put in more reanimation with this card and a few other cards to kind of discard to work more of a reanimator kind of sub-theme, but at the moment I don't think we need to do that. We can just play this fairly. And I think this is the second last just green card that I really like. Return of the Wild Speaker is a card that's just a very, very good draw card in blue. It just got reprinted, so it's very, very cheap. Basically, its ability to, it's kind of like an alternative to Greater Good, and I think if I'm playing between them, I would play Return of the Wild Speaker first because it's not 4 mana. But its ability to just draw, 6 cards, 5 cards off your commander, 6 cards off of a demon or more if you have a bigger demon, is really, really nice. I also think, it's not always, but this is one of those decks that can really use that non-human creatures could get +3/+3 here, because I believe we have, if we take out the humans that are in there, we don't have any humans really, and our creatures' ability to fly and our ability to give trample, or our commander already have trample, makes this +3/+3 a lot better. But if we have like a host of demons that are flying, and then we use, the second ability and give them all +3/+3 in attack, we could very, very reliably take out a player with that. So it is interesting. I will say, obviously, that first ability is much stronger than the second one, but it's important to note when that second one can be very, very good. And I think this is the last card that I'm adding as green for green that I just thought was really, really interesting, and this is Kindred Summons. Now, this has a bit more of a cost, but of course, money is no concern, I hear. So Kindred Summons is really cool. At 7 mana, you choose a creature type, and then you reveal that many of those creatures off the top of your deck, equal to the number of creatures of that type on the battlefield. So if you have 3 demons, you now have 6 demons, and so on. So this really interests me. Not only is it a high mana cost for a good cascade, but it is instant speed, so you can hold up mana and do this on an opponent's turn. But I think, so the thing with Kindred Summons is there's 2 ways to use this card. Either you turn 15 elves into 30 elves, which is really, really good, or you use this as, you know, going from like 3 demons to 6 demons, 3 dragons to 6 dragons, 3 dinos. Well, dinos not so much, but for the other ones, the idea, Eldrazi would be another one that's like this, where the idea is that your singular cards have so much value to them that even if you only get 3 or 4 cards off of this, like you get 2 to 3 or 4 demons off of Kindred Summons, they're all just so powerful that you really don't mind. You really don't mind the fact that, you know, you've just gotten a few cards out of this. Especially when we think of a really good ETB demons, especially the ones that, like, I'm thinking Gyruda or the Rune Binding demon that will, you know, tutor or reanimate a creature. That'll make, like, that's another card you'll get in play. And that's not even counting the cascade you'll get off of this card, which will probably be another demon. So I really do like this. I think this is really, really strong and an easy kind of like non-demon demon finisher, if that makes sense. All right, let's see what else that we can put in here. So there are a few cards here that I feel are suspiciously missing. We want to cascade with demons. Here's a demon with cascade. Now, I get that this isn't as, like, it doesn't really do much outside of cascading. However, I mean, it's the theme, right? We might as well do it. And getting a free 3/3 flying in addition to the next 4 mana spell off the top of your deck, I think that's a fair deal. Another one is Sloppity Bile Piper with Jolly Gut Pipes. I've never seen this card before, and when I saw this, I thought it was a joke. This is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Never say Magic cards can't be funny. And I do note that this is a non-Magic IP, so maybe the joke's from there, but I love this. This gives, in exchange for sacrificing a creature with 2 mana, the next creature spell you cast this turn has Cascade. I think this is good enough. Just as another, like, the fact that it's also a demon, much like the previous creature, makes a big difference. Though we're staying on tribe, we can use this and start cascading when Yidris is not out. And if you don't know this, Cascade does stack, so we can, with either of these cards, we can get double Cascades out of Yidris, or both of those cards together, you'll also get double Cascades. Also, though not very feasible, if you keep untapping this creature and keep sacrificing and putting more mana into it, you get more and more Cascades, but I don't think I recommend that. The fact that it costs 2 to do this, you're going to run out of mana. But still, as a singular Cascade here and there, I think it's very, very interesting. Now, it says creature, so doing this on your opponent's turns, it's hard, but it is possible. I think you're generally just happier to do this on your turn, sacrifice a token or a smaller creature you don't care about, and get the next one out. So I really do like this. Now, this last one is of the Cascade spells. This is just a Cascade spell, right? This is just a classic deal 4 damage to target creature, and then you Cascade. So actually, it's in the other order, but you have a lot of really good 4 mana spells that I think this is just worth playing fairly. Its ability just to destroy, you know, a commander and then just get a free spell out of it, I think that's good enough. I think this is, you know, maybe a little cute, but I mean, the idea is cascading demons, so you might as well play this card. Also, this art is sick. I absolutely love this art, and this has always been the art. Oh, there's new art now. Well, I like this art, so play this art. Let's see what else. I got 2 more Kindred cards that I think you can play if you want to. These cards tend to be really high in mana, but we're going to have a lot of ramp through the green edition, and I think we can still get to this. I would take out a board cleared for this, but I still think this is powerful. Kindred Dominance is very, very cleanly destroy all non-demons. I think this is fine. I wish this destroyed the creatures that you don't control, but I think the argument is then it's too good, and it should be like 8. It should be 8 mana instead of 7. But I think it wouldn't make that much of a difference. This is your like big payoff of playing in Kindred in black. You might as well get to play it and destroy all opponents' creatures. But still. Oh, then you wouldn't be... Yeah, no, I get why. Okay, anyways. Then Kindred Discovery is the other one. This one is a bit more interesting at 5 mana. This is definitely stronger, but it is taking a turn off to cast this. Now, if you can get the Cascade out, you should be able to get another demon out of this. Ideally, a 4 mana or 3 mana demon. But if not... remember that the demon will come into play before Kindred Discovery, which means it won't trigger this, which is unfortunate. But if you cascade into this off of a 6 mana demon, this will enter the battlefield, then the demon will, and you'll get that first trigger right away, which I really like. This just got reprinted in Enchanting Tales, so it is cheaper than it used to be, and definitely at $5. And this is my favorite art, so I do, which seems to be the cheapest one, but I really do like this art. If you can pick this up, I think it's a big boon in blue Kindred. Then this last one, and I think this is probably the strongest one out of them. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice one of them. If you do, you basically cascade into the next creature of that type. And so you replace the creatures on the battlefield with the creatures off the top of your deck. Now, there is a limit on this. Definitely not every demon you want to sacrifice to do this, but there are definitely some demons you'll want to do that, right? For example, that Herald of Zinch? This is definitely a card that once it's on the battlefield and it hits, you're happy to sacrifice it. You're happy to sacrifice it to the Bile Piper or to Descendant's Fury, but I think it's going to be pretty strong if you do that to get another demon. Now, I don't know how reliably demon tokens are in a deck like this to make them, but if you really like this card, the best plan of something like this is to use tokens, sacrifice those tokens, and then turn them into real cards. Now, what's interesting is that it immediately makes me think of Eldrazi, because Eldrazi Scions are 1/1, so they can hit, whereas the Eldrazi Spawn are 0/1, so they can't hit. But the Eldrazi Scions being able to hit in a deck like... I wonder if there's Yidris, we can do Yidris Eldrazi. That would be fun too. I'm going to keep that in mind. Still, here we are. This card seems fun. You might have to bend the deck a little bit to make it work, but I do think it's an interesting card. I do like the fact that if you hit 3 opponents, you get 3 cards, but otherwise you're usually getting 1 creature per. Because probably you don't have that many to sacrifice, but it's an interesting card. Then the last few cards are just boring cards that I think you could benefit from. Night's Whisper, Read the Bones, both for card draw, Rapid Hybridization, and Pongify for creature destruction, and then I was looking through Kindred. I forgot to close this one. All right, and that's it. I really do think there's a lot of things we can do. I think this deck, if we cut out some of the things and we add to the mana, add some card draw, and then fix a few, like with the ramp and a little bit of the green cards, I think the deck will be very functional. If that's what we're going for, the deck's very functional. If we add a bunch of those cards, it'll be more than functional. With the fact that the land base is so good as it is, adding some card draw and some ramp that can get those triomes, I think that the first place I would start. Actually, to be fair, I would start by taking the second copy out and going down to 100, but that's just me. After that, if we do the land ramp, we fix the card draw, I think that by itself will make the biggest difference. And with that, cleaning up a few of the cards here and there. And that's about it. I think this idea is really, really cool. I haven't seen this before, and I hope I see more decks like this, where you're making Kindred out of, strategies that don't tend to be Kindred. So Cascade Kindred really, really is cool, especially in 4-color, especially green demons is something you don't see often. So I'm really, really into this. Thank you so much for sending the deck, and I hope this video has been helpful to you. And good luck. Thank you so much for watching. This video is brought to you by viewers like you and people on my Patreon. If you'd like to send me another draft of this deck, or any deck, there is a link in the video description down below. And if you'd like to make your deck one of my donation decks I work on, there is a link there too. Finally, if you'd like to like, comment, subscribe, I would be very appreciative. It helps the channel quite a bit. Thank you, and good luck in brewing and building.